Hey good people, it's Ricky here for the Frugal Photographer. So right now in front of me I have what is quite possibly the world's most boring lens, the 18-55. And then I also have the Canon Nifty 50. And then I have the Canon 28mm f1.8. So I'm going to put the kit lens to those two different focal lengths. We'll do some test shots, both of subjects that are up close and some subjects that are further away to stress the lens a little bit more. Ultimately, what I want to find out is the kit lens suitable for some photographers? Is it even worth bothering with? Do you need to upgrade from the kit lens? I actually don't know. I'm going to test this, we'll learn together, and let's find out. So right now I'm in downtown Medellin, hanging out in a park, and I'm going to do some various types of shots with the kit lens set first to 28mm. It's going to be hard to get exact, I'm going to do my best. And then to 50mm. Again, I'm not going to be able to get that exact, but I'll be close. I'll take some shots just of some of the city stuff that's around, and then I'll try doing some just simple portraiture, like headshots with the 50mm, which is a fairly common thing to do, kind of type portraits with that sort of lens, and then maybe a wider portrait with the 28mm lens. So there's this really cool statue, and I'm going to set my lens to 28mm and then just kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. So just kind of to give you an idea of what I'm looking at, I'll show you through the viewfinder right here. And about here is 28mm. So I'm going to take some shots like this. We'll have the building, we'll have this cool statue, and then I'll switch out to the 28mm and we'll see how it goes. So I got those shots, and we'll go back and take a look on the computer and we'll look at those together and see what the difference is between the kit lens and the two prime lenses. So in order to compare the image quality of the kit lens versus the prime lens, what I have done is I've shot all these images at f5.6. The reason for this is that usually when I am shooting my kit lens, I am in aperture priority mode at f5.6. So let's look at the images. Okay, so I have these images pulled up in Lightroom, and we are going to take a look. So here's this photo I was showing you earlier, and things are a little complicated because, as you can see, well, let's try that again. As you can see, the 28mm lens has bad flaring, which is a problem that it's known for. So you can see, unfortunately, right in the middle I put the crotch of this statue person, which I didn't realize I was doing, but you can see there's this flaring here. So that, I think, brought down the contrast a fair bit. But if we go in and we look at the detail, what's really amazing is not just in terms of contrast, but in terms of sharpness, the kit lens seems to really be blowing away the 28mm lens out of the water. So now here, if I'll go to 2:1, you can really see edge detail much better in the kit lens than you can in the prime lens, which is very confusing. I do not understand why this is the case. But now, if I'll show you, so this is the same shot, except instead I was focusing on the building behind. So let's go into some bricks. And you'll notice that the kit lens is brighter, it has better contrast, but not only that, it's sharper. If you look at the edges on these bricks, and this is really confusing. I don't understand why it's doing so much better. And when I did these shots, I took multiple shots that were where I tried to focus in slightly different places. So these are the sharpest. These are the most in focus for each lens, and the kit lens is distinctly sharper in this series of photos. Now, what's confusing about that is that in these portrait photos, it's the complete opposite. We can come over here, here's the 28mm lens, and you can see a lot more detail in the hat. If we come in 2:1, becomes, sorry, I'm looking at the kit lens right now. If you look at the prime lens, you can see significantly more detail in my hat, and there we go. And you can see significantly more detail in the pores on my skin. I don't know if it'll be able to show up on YouTube, but even I can see some hairs around here that just don't even show up here. So Here the kit lens is doing, sorry, here the prime lens is doing much better than the kit lens. But what's interesting about that is that it doesn't really show up until you're really at 1:1. At 1:1, you can notice some significant differences. But I think the equivalent of viewing 1:1 would be a print that's like 14 inches wide or something like this. So it is a realistic scenario that you would print that large. However, I think that the most common viewing size is going to be this or smaller. And at this point, I really can't distinguish any differences in sharpness. So it's very confusing to me that the 28mm lens does so much better than the kit lens in this example, and in the previous two examples it just got absolutely destroyed by the kit lens. Maybe the fact that it was looking into the sun is part of that. I'm not sure. I would think that wouldn't affect sharpness. That should only affect contrast and color and things like that. But if you look at this, I can see a pretty large difference in terms of contrast and color. Obviously they're different, but if we're actually just talking about sharpness, I can't really see much of a difference. That is not what I wanted to do. So even at, so here we're at 1:1, and if you look at the texture on the hat, on the brim, or on the hat itself, or here on the green, if you look at the pores on my nose, which is usually a good way to tell with portraits, the kit lens seems to be holding up really well with the 50mm. I can't tell a difference, which is really interesting to me because this is the lens, this is supposedly my sharpest lens, and kit lenses usually do worse at the long end. So I thought for sure that my kit lens would get destroyed going head to head against the 50mm. And so it's really interesting to see the kit lens being basically indistinguishable. So now, here's another 50mm test. And so this is 50mm looking at the building. And what's interesting here is basically that, once again, I'm having a hard time seeing much of a difference in sharpness. I really can't tell a difference between the kit lens and the 50mm prime, which is really staggering. And a lot of people don't know this. So this 50mm f1.8, it gets a lot of crap, but it's actually Canon's sharpest 50mm prime lens. So you're not going to get a better lens by upgrading to the 50mm f1.4 or f1.2. So if you're interested in getting a 50mm prime from Canon, you will not get results better than what I get here, which is bizarre because it should be absolutely trouncing the kit lens, and the kit lens is just doing extremely well. So I hope you found those results interesting. I sure did. It was not at all what I was expecting. If you have anything to say, please leave a comment. I am very interested in hearing what you have to say. This was a really interesting test, and I am interested in talking to people about it and why what happened, and maybe doing some more tests in the future. All right, thanks everybody. Take care.